Good afternoon and welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour show. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that I've heard little bits about it here and there, EMF fields. And we are bringing on a specialist, Gary Greenleaf, who's going to share with us first his journey into this field, but also what is EMF? How does it affect you? Why should you actually care about it? And most importantly, how does it affect your health? So I want to welcome Gary. Thank you so much for joining us today, coming to share with us your knowledge and wisdom.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get into this field and, all of those little details?
Well, I didn't study this in school. I went to school for business and moved out to Arizona about 10 years ago, and I bought a home. And when I moved out there, I started to get into health and nutrition and eating well. And when I bought this house, I noticed I wasn't sleeping well. And I had some friends come visit, and they also mentioned it as well. And then I started to research, well, what is wrong with this house? Is it mold or what is it? And I came to realize that there was a cell tower right down the street above a fire station in a residential neighborhood. It was on a mountain, and there's all these AM towers for radio broadcasts. We had a smart meter on the house. And I just started to research all these things and concluded that there's a very good chance that a lot of this invisible microwave or EMF technology is affecting me and whoever's in the house. And that's how I got started.
So what was different about your sleeping from before you moved to Arizona and when you moved in this house? For those who are listening and curious, what would that feel like?
Just not sleeping thoroughly. Like I used to just sleep like a log and just wake up feeling rested. So I'd wake up during the night. I wouldn't toss and turn. I wouldn't feel anxiety, but I would say someone that stayed there did. And so something was going on and I had to figure it out.
That's amazing. And so you started diving into this field. I mean, if you Google it, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yep.
So how did you find the right resources, or how did you stumble into what you had to do next?
Well, I did some research and I found there was a guy that did testing. And so I called him up. He came out and he didn't do a lot of different things, but he did say, yeah, there's a lot of what we call high frequency or the microwaves, which is your cell tower, your cell phone, your cordless phone. These are all communicate with pulsing microwaves. Yeah. And I said, okay, it's a little high. What can I do about it? And his only suggestion was to drape a barrier around the bed. And I was like, it was very expensive. And I'm like, all right, I'll just research it some more. Yeah. And I started to do some training with a company called Premier Research Labs, and they had some technologies back then for EMF. And so I started to learn from them, and I used some of their technologies, putting volcanic basalt around the house, and I had some pyramids inside. It was whatever I could do to make it feel better, and it did. It actually did feel better. I do use different technology today, but that's how I got started. Yeah.
And when you started doing these things, how long did it take for you to feel the effect of your sleep improving?
Very quickly. Okay. You could tell a difference. People would come in the house and they'd be like, they would feel good. It's almost like a vastu in feng shui, where you make the house, the energy go, and you just feel much better and you can feel it. I could feel better for sure.
That's fascinating. And so once you started getting your house in order, did you then dive into how you could create a career out of this or help other people? What was the next step?
At the time, I thought it would be interesting to have, be able to do this to help others. And it wasn't until I moved to Florida and was exposed to even more radiation here, because wherever you have more increased population by nature, you're going to have more cell phones, more cell towers. So I was fortunate enough to meet a friend who's a holistic veterinarian, and she had a different technology and different testing kits from Germany that I could measure low frequency, high frequency, geopathic radiation, like all different kinds of things. And she had a system, they called the GeoSafe system from Germany. And the guy's been doing it since the 70s. Primarily, it started from radiation from the earth, because we also get, things from the earth that could be from different fault lines, or there's about 6 different energies that come up from the earth that are usually helpful, but could be harmful as well. Yeah. And so I found this system, and I've been using that ever since. And I go into people's homes and offices, and I test, come up with the scientific results, and then we see what's going to help neutralize the radiation in the room. But the most important thing you can do is be aware of what's there and minimize what you can. There's no reason to have Wi-Fi blasting in your house, 24 hours a day.
Right. So let's back up a little bit and let's go into what is EMF. What does it stand for? Kind of break it down for us so that we can kind of relate to it a little bit easier.
So it stands for electromagnetic frequencies. And if you look at a spectrum like light, sunlight is a EMF, but it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Light bulb has a frequency that's also EMF, and that could be, most artificial light is not helpful to you, especially the new technology. The fluorescence, compact fluorescence, are very damaging to your health. Okay. There's other frequencies like the microwaves, like your cell phone. Yeah. Those are higher frequencies. Whereas the electricity that runs in your wall and on high tension wires, those are low. It vibrates lower frequency, and those can be measured as well. So
when something is higher frequency versus lower frequency, does that have different impacts on our body? Is one better for us versus the other?
Well, they're all going to have an effect. The thing about it is, every cell in your body responds to EMF, whether it's from your cell phone or whether it's from the electrical line that runs in the wall where you're sleeping. So the important thing is to identify all the sources and to minimize it. But yeah, it's they all have an effect. Like a electromagnetic field, like if you just say sitting next to an air conditioner unit that's going, that will have a big field. It could be on the next, right behind you. And that could be diminishing. There's studies that show, Dr. Alan Fry did in the 70s, that very little exposure to a field like that decreases your blood-brain barrier. So toxins can get into the brain very easily. So that's just an example.
That's crazy. So basically these fields, there's an electrical and a magnetic component to it. And so there's waves that are emanating from these devices that we can't see, but it penetrates into us, correct?
Yes.
Is that right? And so it's having an impact on our body at a cellular level and an electrical level, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I was studying over the weekend, Dr. Martin Paul has a lot of research that that's a guy I would definitely research on the internet and watch his videos. But he found out that one of the main reasons EMF affects us is in each cell, it has this calcium channel called a voltage gated calcium channel. And when cells are exposed to EMF, they open up and excess calcium floods into the cells of the body. And the parts of the body that are loaded with these are your nervous system, your brain, your heart, and reproductive system. And so when that happens, you get dysfunction, you get mitochondria can't function properly. And over time, your nervous system breaks down. And the thing is, this bioaccumulates, and over time and intensity gets worse and worse.
Right. And we know our body habituates to things, and we may not recognize that. You luckily knew something was different as soon as you slept in your new house in Arizona, but sometimes we're not aware. We're so busy with our lives and focused on other things. We're not really sure when we started feeling uneasy or a malaise or anything like that. And so our body just adapts until you get to that breaking point. So I can see his research would be very important, especially the cellular levels.
Yeah, some just common symptoms, if people, they have their Wi-Fi on their house, they have fake lighting in their home, they're on the phone a lot. The phone is a very big contributor. But you might become dizzy, you might not sleep well, your memory might not be as good as it used to be, you might become tired, the nervous system gets fatigued, all these things add up. And
So something like, we often use AirPods now. I see a lot of people that have these, Bluetooth devices in their ears so they don't have their cell phone on them. Is that any better?
No, because the cell phone, I go walking a lot and I'll see people, they'll talk their cell phone. Women, they'll put it right by their breast, or they'll put it in their shorts by their ovaries.
Yeah.
First of all, you never want to have the cell phone against your body and as far away as possible. Because when you start using it, the high frequency radiation goes off the charts. So if you're using it and having it, it's best to keep it as far away as possible. But so if people have it on their body, then they'll have the earpieces in, but how is that signal getting to your ear? Yep. It's sending another high frequency microwave to the speaker in your ear, which goes through your brain, and they're communicating back and forth.
So it's almost better to put it on speaker, right? Which can be annoying.
The best thing to do is what I do. I take a break from the phone, I put it away, and I go for a walk, or I'll go to the gym, and I don't have the phone for a while.
That's good.
Part of the problem is the addiction to the technology.
Yeah.
We you know, people just, including myself, you pick up the phone, you see what's going on, but you don't really have to do that as often as we do.
I know. And of course, it just ramped up even more in the past year with the pandemic and the lack of social interaction and in person. So of course, we're really going.
Everyone's on the computers and the phones, and we need to get outside in the sunlight and enjoy nature.
Absolutely. And I know one of the effects with all this technology is the blue light that emanates from them. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that impacts us and our sleep?
Well, in general, all artificial lighting, especially, and then some are worse than others. Like the old-fashioned incandescent bulb is more like sunlight compared to the new ones, which have a frequency that's more blue light oriented. The screen on your computer, the screen on the phone, they have a lot of blue light emitting. And when your eyes are focused on that, I think it's about 5,200 degrees, the temperature of the screen. It's basically telling your body it's high noon every time you're looking at it. So this is going to create circadian biology problems. And if we're exposed to artificial light over time, our melatonin levels drop. Another reason why people can't sleep, their melatonin is shot because they're in bed on the phone for 3 hours before they go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I just found out today watching something, Jack Cruz posted that just sitting in a room with artificial light will increase blood glucose levels and insulin. Wow. Just from the light, not anything else. So
no, has no effect with what you put in your mouth. That's incredible.
Yeah. So one of a big point I want to make is we need to become aware of this stuff. We need to research, we need to inform other people about it, because people don't know and they're falling apart with autoimmune and whatever, eventually can lead up to cancer and whatnot.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of the symptoms that people feel, kind of the fatigue or brain fog, stuff like that. So all of those are very common in autoimmune disorders, very, very common. And then obviously cancer. Are there other conditions that you see? Obviously sleep disorders you had mentioned in your case, anxiety with your friend.
Another big one is fertility.
Okay.
And so fertility levels are just dropping like at alarming rates. In fact, it's not worldwide, it's not even sustainable to sustain what we have as far as a population. And Dr. Martin Paul was talking about this, and there's a study in Greece where they took mice and they put them in cages on the ground in an antenna field. And they put some where the radio frequencies were high and they put some where they were low, and they monitored the reproduction. And the ones that were high, the first generation, they were abnormally sized. The second generation, the numbers dropped, and beyond, there was no third generation.
Okay.
Then they looked at the mice that were in the lower area, and the same thing happened. It just took them about twice as long to do. So even low amounts of the microwave radiation over time is a big deal. Something to be aware of. Yeah.
That's incredible. So what do you do? What do you do in your home? Like something like that. Do you not use the microwave? Do all your cooking on the stove?
I never use the microwave.
Okay.
When you turn on the microwave, if you go 10 feet away, you'll measure very high electromagnetic field. It shoots right out through the glass. Not only does it denature your food or water, but it's whoever's in the kitchen's getting blasted. So turn that into a storage container. But the other thing is, in the house in general, the biggest thing is the Wi-Fi. Okay. So Wi-Fi is basically you're putting a mini cell tower in your house. And if people leave it on 24 hours a day, whoever's in the house is, you're receiving a high frequency pulsing signal. It's not a continuous. It's not, when you measure it with a device, it sounds like a machine gun.
Okay.
And the closer you are, the more damage it can do to you. So people have it in an office, they'll have it like next to them. That's absolutely insanity.
Okay.
So the best, at the very least, turn it off when you go to bed. But the best is to just wire it, turn the thing off completely.
Yeah.
You can wire. I have a MacBook Pro, and I just plug in the Ethernet. I plug in, the mouse, which people have. They'll have the wireless mouse. It's just all these little things add to the mess. The wireless mouse, the Alexa.
Yep.
What else? I want a smart TV. Well, you're going to sit on there and it's going to try to contact your phone while you're sitting there.
Yeah.
The smart meter is going to try to talk to the appliances in your house. So the more things you have, the more smog you're creating yourself. So the best thing you can do is educate yourself on minimizing all these things.
Yeah. So if you take away your Wi-Fi, what do you do for cell phone use for the internet? Do you just go on LTE, or what's an option for that?
That's what I do if I need to use it, because the signals are already zooming through your house anyway.
Yeah.
There's really no, almost everyone has unlimited plans, so there's really no reason to have the Wi-Fi on.
Right.
You might have, if you want to make it aesthetically pleasing, you would wire Ethernet outlets in your house. And I used to build houses in the early 2000s, and everyone thought it was a treat to have Ethernet networked in the house. But now they don't even bother because everyone's just blasting it through the walls.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. So
but
what about...
We're going back the other way, I hope.
I hope so. And I can see sometimes appliances have too many buttons that you just want the simplicity where you push, because then you don't have this electrical system that fails randomly whenever you're using it. So I understand the desire for just a push button.
Some other things in the house, you should be, the most important thing is where you sleep, because your body goes into the rest mode and you don't have the defenses to fight off all the stress. So you want to make sure that, you don't have the phone right by your head or an Alexa in the room. You get that stuff out of there. You make sure you don't have an electric bed. I've tested beds that have high EMF fields from the electricity runs right through the bed. The best is to have a mattress that doesn't have metal coils. Because those coils are going to conduct whatever, any metal basically is going to conduct the radiation that's in the room. Okay.
That's interesting. Do you also look at if there's a thermostat in there? Because sometimes they have a light, or like I have a rabbit air filter that filters the air. Is that something that I know I have it turned towards the wall, so the lights.
The thing to keep in mind, anything that's plugged in, like it'll have a field like an air purifier. There'll be something right around it, so keep it away from you.
Okay.
Don't have it near, a lot of things by nature, just going to have a little EMF field, like a computer box. If you don't have it up, an old fashioned computer box, if you have it up against your leg, it's a problem. If it's 5 feet away, it's not a problem.
Got it. Okay.
So, but the thing, like anything by your head when you're trying to sleep, I've been to houses where they have the air conditioner units right behind them. I've been to houses where there's banks of smart meters right behind, where someone's trying to recover from an autoimmune condition, and there's 20 smart meters on the other side of the wall. So it's important, if you're going to live somewhere, figure out, investigate, these things before you move in. Yeah.
Or see if you can change them otherwise, move them around or something like that. Yeah. So when you go into someone's house, what does that look like for EMF testing?
Well, I take a look at everything. I see where, is it a smart meter? Here in Florida, you can contact the provider and you can get an old-fashioned one.
Okay.
That's not as invasive. In other states, you can't. So I test for a lot of different things. Like I said, I have a high-frequency device, which is your cell phone, your cell tower. Even I live on a golf course here, the golf course radar. That's high frequency. And essentially, the smart meters they put on, they're always pulsing a frequency, because instead of coming out to look at your meter, they are is basically sending a signal, and your meter could be a transponder sending other signals, so it can be a big mess.
Okay. So basically you have a device that you hold up to different things that emit EMF. And
Well,
it tells you a reading?
Yeah, I can measure intensity levels of the high frequency. That's the most common and the most inescapable is these microwaves that are shooting everywhere.
Okay.
A lot of things like the lower, the electromagnetics is your electrical lines. You can test, often if they're running behind the bed, you can pull the bed out a little bit so you're not up against that wall.
Okay.
I test the ground wires because a lot of times people get grounding mats and things like that to help, because if you're grounded to the earth, but the thing is, a lot of times electricity runs in that ground wire. So unless that's going directly into the earth, we don't recommend doing that. I've seen, it depends. It depends on the house,
Yeah, because I've seen it where people will have the grounding mat and then they have the wire, they actually have it go out their window to the ground and some people just plug it into an outlet. So you're saying you want it to actually go all the way to the ground outside?
Yeah, I wouldn't go in the outlet because I've tested someone that had grounding sheets and there was so much electricity running. The electrical field was extremely high throughout the whole bed because it has little silver material in the sheets.
Oh, gotcha.
It was going through the electrical lines, through the ground and into the bed.
So it's actually worse than if they had nothing, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So when you look at your meter and you're going around the house, what tells you if it's too much or your body can handle that amount of EMF?
Well, the funny thing is the standards where they are in the US are irrelevant. If you look at, I for instance, when I send people a report after I test, I quote what they came up with in Germany and Europe, and it's very, very low. So any little amount is having an effect. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look at one thing called like nanoteslas, which is correlate to milligauss. So 100 nanoteslas I'm measuring on my device is 1 milligauss. So in the US, let's say, oh, a milligauss or two, that's no problem. But the standards in Europe that they set, they want it in some countries less than 30 and less than 10 nanoteslas. So that's like 10% of a milligauss.
Okay.
So over here, it's like, oh, a couple milligauss. No, well, it is a problem. That's the thing. It's how we define what the problem is. Even a little bit is, it all has an effect because your body is, like I said before, it's runs on electromagnetic field. Your heart has an electromagnetic field. Yeah. And if we go back to the voltage-gated calcium channel, the heart is loaded with it. It's loaded with mitochondria. Yeah. And there's a lot of young athletes that drop dead in college practice these days. So why is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it's not, and when I say, what level on your meter should we be concerned? It's more that any level is important. Here's the hot spots. We need to reduce those first and then keep working our way down. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. And then like some places I'll go and they'll be really low frequency. And I'll say, yeah, this is a lot lower than I've seen. I've been in places where, a high-rise building where I don't know why, but the electromagnetic field was off the charts in every room. So something's going on. I don't know where the meters are in that building, and they were having health problems because of it. Wow. They fortunately moved out of the building into a single family home, which is a good, smart idea. Better. Because in the single family home, you can control more. You can't control your neighbors above and below and next to you in a high rise.
Yeah, that is true for sure. So okay. So now you've tested everything. What are some of the solutions that people can start to look at to fix things?
Well, first thing is minimization. Like I said, with the Wi-Fi router, get that off. Get rid of the Alexas, and anything like even the cordless phones. They're just as bad as cell phones. In fact, the bases talk to each other regularly when you're not even in use. So you might have a cordless base next to you in your bedroom, and it's sending a signal through you to get to the other side of the house. So, I mean, just get an old-fashioned phone if you need that in the house. Okay. Like I said, with the smart meter, which is, it can be a mix of low frequency or high frequency. The best is not to have it. In Florida, you can change it out. Other places you can't.
Yeah.
So there are shielding technologies, but what I use is I use the GeoSafe system. So I have these things that I test. They're handmade domes that have crystals, gems, paramagnetic materials in them. And I need to test to see what matches the frequencies in the room. And then when I find the right answer, I put it in the room, and then we can test to make sure that it's the right answer, and then we can go on to the next room. And the premise is every room is different. Every room's going to have different frequencies. So not one thing could possibly do every room in the house.
Gotcha. So how big are these domes? Are we talking like a couple inches or, a foot?
No. Yeah, it's like...
give me an idea here.
I would say about 5 inches high by 5.
Okay.
They're handcrafted beechwood spheres made in Germany. And each one has a different mix of crystals, gems, and minerals, depending on what frequencies are needed. That's why I have about 16 different ones that I test per room.
Okay. And so when you do a testing in a room, you figure out what is prominent in terms of the EMF, and then you put this dome in there based on the results that you got. And right away, do you see a difference in terms of the absorption of the EMF into these crystals?
It depends on the person. Some people are very dense and don't notice. Other people that are sensitive to energies, they immediately feel more relaxed when you place it. And some people that can actually see energy fields, they can see, can see the difference. But also in Germany, they did a study with a device that measures electricity in the body. And so they hooked it up. I guess the normal flow is about 50 hertz in the body. So they had a guy sitting in front of all this electrical equipment, a standard office, and they measured his body, and the electricity was higher than normal. And then they tested to see, well, what kind of GeoSafe matches the room. They placed it in the room. They tested him again. It went back to the 50 hertz. So it's not eliminating, it's not a shielding where it's blocking, but it's helping to neutralize the biological effects of the EMFs. Okay. Yeah.
So that's one solution. Are there other things? I know of physicians who have tinctures and different things that they give people to neutralize some of the effects of radiation. Do you know much about that?
You do want to, and it creates oxidative stress. So you want to, take vitamin C. Magnesium is beneficial. CoQ10. All these things are basic things that can help, but you want to stop the assault.
Right.
Otherwise, you can go. There's devices called biofeedback, where they're frequency machines that can measure the stuff in your body, and you can clear it up. But if you go back to the same place and get radiated day in and day out, you're going to have to go back and get cleaned up again.
Right. So, I mean, obviously now a lot of us are virtual. We have to have, it's our source of income, and we can't really change that, or we could, I guess, but it would be a really big disruption. So that's why finding out some of these, your GeoSafe domes are an option, supplements, different types of homeopathic tinctures, different things like that.
I know there's one in Europe called Radex homeopathic that helps clear the EMF stress in the body, because it bioaccumulates. And over time, it can have dramatic effects. And if you let it go on and have really serious effects, it's hard to reverse.
Yeah.
That's what makes this very tricky.
Yeah. And what about detoxing? Is there a way you can just detox your body in a period of time?
Here's a good example. Grounding, like down in Florida, you can walk the beach or ground to the earth, but there's a bath you can take where you take 2 cups of baking soda, 2 cups of sea salt, and there's a company called there's a website, eesystems.com, and they have a scalar wave salt that has ginger and a bunch of different things designed to detox radiation out of the body. So I believe it's 2 tablespoons of that, and you take a bath in that, a few nights a week, and it's very powerful. I do that on a regular basis.
What was the company's name?
The Energy Enhancement System, eesystem.com.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Sandra Michaels.
Okay.
She invented a scalar waves machine and has all kinds of stuff.
Neat. What do you feel after you do these baths? I'm curious.
I just feel really relaxed. I sleep very well. You can feel it. It's very powerful. You could probably just take the baking soda and the sea salt and do something like that. Maybe add some Epsom salts.
Something like that too. Yeah. But hey, more things that we can do. And especially if we need more time coming down from our fight or flight mode anyways. And why not throw in some of the stuff to have a bath and completely relax? So
Absolutely.
it's amazing. So where can people find more information about all of this? You've given us a ton of information. What are some resources?
I encourage everyone to do their own research, and there's a couple names I would like to recommend. One is Dr. Jack Cruz, and these guys have all kinds of podcasts and videos you can watch.
Okay.
Dr. Martin Pall, P-A-L-L.
Okay.
You can also research Dr. Mercola. I believe he has a book that came out called EMF. A lot of good research in there. I do have information I can email. I have a book called Radiation Fields, a PDF version.
Okay.
And my email address is geosafeusa@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'm happy to send a couple things. I have a document on blue light and all the science behind it and what you can do about that.
Yeah.
So I can, if people are interested, I can send them some information. We also have a website called emfprotectionservices.com.
Okay.
And that's the US region for the GeoSafe system.
Yeah, this is great information. I'm curious, can you share, just as we wrap up, but can you share a couple stories besides your own, maybe something that's a little bit different than sleep, of people who've really benefited health-wise in shifting away from the EMF? I'm just curious your experience.
I would say, well, I'm thinking about my nephew. Who, there's a lot of thought, and probably is real, about the link between autism and EMF.
Yeah.
And he's been on a road to recovery his whole life, and he's done a lot of things. But he's now 15 years old, and he's pretty well full functioning.
Wow.
And, I mean, it's diet, it's supplements, it's reducing EMF, everything like that. And so that, you know, when I see him, I'm like, wow, from, you know, I mean, it's a long process. And that's, you know, just another thing is the autism rates keep going up and up. And I think there is definitely a big link between that, you know, obviously with the fertility and probably with the reproduction as well.
That's incredible. I mean, I know there are so many things out there we can look at to improve our health. I mean, if you look, you named several just now, and it can be overwhelming at times. So it's nice to have someone like you as a resource say, hey, okay, you know what, I'm going to dive into EMF for a little bit. They can reach out to you, get your book on radiation fields, and start looking at different options, because it's a matter of chipping away at things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to share the information because, you know, I started to look for the information because I was feeling something. People don't understand the impact, especially with children. You know, I see kids that have a cell phone and they're, you know, 5, 6 years old on the phone, or the parents put them in front of a tablet. I mean, that's horrible. Yeah. Not only for, you know, the blue light, but also their developing brains. Their brains absorb more. There's a lot of different things, aspects to this. And the most important thing is awareness and making the right decisions, you know, to create an environment that you can thrive in. That's what I'm.
Oh, it's wonderful. Any last little tidbit you want to share with anyone about this EMF and what they can do?
Just, it's very, very important, whether you want to buy devices, hire someone, see what's going on in your house, you know, do that. You definitely want to do some research before you move into a place and you're locked into a lease, or you buy a house. Then you find out, oh, there's these big electrical wires behind. So minimize what you can, educate yourself. And what you can't, you want to neutralize or work out whatever system you want to use. We use the GeoSafe system. You can do shielding, whatever. But the most important thing is awareness, and awareness of the impacts of your life and your offspring, your future generations too.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing all this information, strategies, and I hope people reach out to you because this is an important topic, and I know that you've helped people, including yourself. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Amy. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your weekend. We will see you next weekend. Take care. Bye now.